Hey everyone, this is Devin, aka Leonard Meltzner.
And this is Victoria.
And you're watching the 5th episode
Yay!
of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast.
It's our 5th episode anniversary.
Yes, which is very exciting. We're getting the schedule back on track and we'll get all of the weeks caught up by next time.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so it's exciting now. We've reached 5 episodes. Unlike the blogcast, we don't already have our first interview being this episode. But next episode
is our interview, and we would like you guys to send more questions, please, because we do not have enough.
Yeah, so please send in questions.
Or else I'll have to write all of them.
Yeah. So send in more questions. This very next week, we will be releasing the interview with Austin and Tasha. We'll be interviewing them on Saturday night, so you have until then to send questions. But please don't put it off. Pause the video, hit the pause button right down there.
You can think of a question.
Hit Control-T, open your email, type some stuff out, hit
You don't
send.
even have to know anything about them. Like,
Nope.
just think of a random question.
The less you know about them, the better. That makes for more questions.
What's your favorite color? There. Someone write that down somewhere.
Okay, so there's not really a whole lot of other stuff to beat around the bush with today, so we might as well get right into it. Your Servant is Listening, parts 1 and 2 have aired.
Yay!
Yes, it's quite exciting. We're already 2 episodes in, and even more exciting, the digital download has not released yet, which means that all of the people who normally listen to it early and then tease spoilers in front of everyone else's faces can't lord it over us yet. It was supposed to be released today, which is Tuesday, and now it's been pushed forward to Thursday, so if this is being uploaded on Thursday, which is likely, then maybe it's out now. Maybe it got pushed forward. Who knows? Either way, I'm enjoying the fact that I don't have to try and hide from all Odyssey media to avoid spoilers right now.
You're kind of horrible.
Thank you.
Just a little bit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, to get into our discussion, let's first bring up a little bit of statistics on our episodes.
We should
here.
read the description. Or you can just summarize it really quick.
So, we are reviewing, like we said, Your Servant is Listening, parts 1 and 2, episodes 727 and 728. This is the series opener, season opener, I'm so British, for album 57. Both episodes were written by Nathan Hubler and Kathy Buchanan, both very long-standing writers on the show, well, pretty long-standing, people that we have come to know and love and trust for wonderful episodes.
And introduce Mitch into the series.
Yeah, that too. I, for one, was very excited that we got to open on a 2-parter with the Bible story again, because I loved The Perfect Church, part 1 and 2, last season. I almost said series again.
My favorite part in The Perfect Church had to be when the Apostle Paul, Saul, I guess, because he wasn't Paul yet, when he was with Matthew, and then Matthew fell down the well, or I guess he kind of
pushed him down the well. It's funny because the part ended right there, and beyond the hilarity of the fact that Matthew got pushed into a well by Saul, like the Apostle Paul, I was expecting the well to be kind of like a door, and it was going to be kind of like Portal, so it's like, here's the well, and here's the ground, and here is the house. So Saul pushes Matthew down the well, Matthew disappears into it like a door, reappears out this door, and all the momentum carries him, and then he, makes Saul go flying. But, obviously I've been doing too many Portal things, because that's medieval. I thought it was like he'll fall and fly out sideways and then tackle Saul into the well or something like that.
I thought it was funny in that episode, how he told Matthew not to tell anyone that he was there, and Matthew's like, sure, not, and then they start screaming their names. I listen to it, I'm like, that sounds exactly like something I would do and have done.
Well, we're not reviewing that one though, so we should probably get on to the right season, not the 56 opener, but the 57 opener. So we've both written down our notes on the episode. We haven't discussed it between ourselves very much because we want to get most of that on tape. So let us start off right from the beginning.
So, you say something, I say something.
I guess so.
Okay.
Like I said, first off, the fact that we're opening with a Bible story again is great. Always love the fact that, you look at how many big stories there are in the Bible, and just every time we have an episode come out, filling in more and more of the Bible through these episodes. And now we have the beginning of 1 Samuel, which of course then leads into episodes like all of Darian's rise, or Bernard and Saul.
Shepherd and the Giant.
First, it would lead from your servant is listening into Bernard and Saul, and Saul's anointance as king. And then
Isaac
from there...
Isaac the true friend.
Yeah, Isaac the true friend, and Darian's rise, and the Shepherd and the Giant, and it would go on from there, and then Rights, Wrongs, and Reasons, and BTV Envy, and other things involving David being king.
Yeah.
BTV thanks.
I also really like it when Odyssey does Bible stories. I especially liked this one because when I was little, the whole thing with, what's his mom's name again? Hannah, that was one of my favorite biblical stories, her going in to the tabernacle, and yeah. I've always enjoyed that story. I like how they started off there, and they didn't just start when Saul was a little kid, because I thought that they'd probably do that. But they didn't, and that made me
Samuel?
happy. Yep, that's what I said.
Okay. So, to start up from the beginning of the episode, first thing I thought was, I had just been talking earlier that last Saturday night about how long my hair was getting, and I'm sure everyone can see how ridiculously poofy my hair is. And then I start off the episode and they go right into a discussion about how long Matthew's hair was. When Camilla came home from school, the story about the eraser in the kid's nose, personally, I thought that a trip to the ER to get an eraser out of a nose is kind of really long way around. You could just, throw pepper up his nose and have him sneeze it out. Didn't you have something you thought about?
It reminded me of in the Triangled Web when Jimmy was talking about how he put, it was a pencil, right? Or no?
Might have been beans.
Peas.
Peas, yes.
Yeah, how Jimmy put peas up his nose when he was little and he had to go to the ER. That's what I thought of. Didn't you
or
say
at least
you thought
Connie
of
hoped that it was little.
Didn't you say that you thought of gluten and him saying that he figured out how to put a pair of
No.
up his nose?
I thought that that's what you were thinking of when
No.
you said it reminded you of something, but that's
Yeah.
not what it made me think of. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe ER waits are a lot shorter in the States because you guys have to pay for medical care. Except now you have Obamacare, so maybe you don't have to. I don't even know. I don't even understand. I'm not going to get into that.
Anyway,
I know a bunch of you are liberals and a bunch of you are conservatives, and I'm not going to get into a debate over Obamacare.
Okay. I thought I was kind of surprised by the fact that about 8 or so minutes went by before they actually entered the imagination station.
Yeah, it was kind of a long beginning. That kind of
surprised me because, it was around 5 minutes before Camilla even showed up in the episode.
That's true.
Because I was actually checking the time because I was wondering why they hadn't gone into the imagination station yet. Because in most imagination station episodes, even if they wait a while before going in, a while only constitutes in that kind of episode about 2 to 3 minutes around there.
Okay. Here's a thought. What kind of grandma gives an entire chocolate bar to their grandchild? Or candy bar is what you say in the States, I think. We say chocolate bar.
I only get that much candy, and usually not even that much from my grandparents at Halloween. So...
that's a lot of chocolate.
Yeah.
And Camilla's 9 or something like that?
Something like that. It's gonna be all in For the Wing Bells Toll again when it has all those chocolate handprints all over the office.
Yeah, that's the imagination station. He's gonna come inside and it's gonna be, he'll be have a program for the American Revolution running or something like that, and they'll just be like chocolate handprints floating in midair because they're on the walls of the actual
it'll
room.
be like so filthy he can't actually see if there's kids in there, and it'll be like, too bad Bernard's dead, else.
We'll just close Wit's End and lock the kids in for the night.
Because Bernard's not in the series anymore, apparently.
Come back, Dave Madden.
Please, we miss you. You're one of my favorite characters. You're like my second favorite character.
Your sarcasm, cynicism, and
you remind me of Eeyore, and I like Eeyore. Look, because I couldn't find an actual notebook. I had to use this.
Eeyore's not on there.
I know, it's so sad.
Eeyore's never on there. Eeyore always gets left behind.
I love him though. He's very adorable. Anyway.
On that same topic, Lucia was just talking to Ava about how lenient she is with her children, and then as soon as Camilla comes in, she's like, "Here, have diabetes," and she's eat it slowly. I don't know. That line seemed like it was delivered kind of weirdly.
Your plaque will fill up on your teeth way faster.
Like a whole
if you
chocolate bar.
Yeah. Imagine if it was like a mega-sized chocolate bar or something like that.
Yeah. She deserved a whole chocolate bar because it was a good hug.
Devin and I, we both listened to these two episodes at different times, like on different days for the second part, actually. So, and we both had the exact same reaction to that, because she's talking to Ava. She's like, "Oh, you're too lenient on your children. Look at Matthew's hair. Oh, hey, Camilla, let me offer you Willy Wonka's chocolate factory." And I'm just like, what is going on? And another thing, why do grandparents always have candy on them in some way? I was talking to Devin about this. The funniest thing is, okay, we listened to this episode on Saturday.
I listened to it today.
Well, like the first part, first time. So next day when I'm at church, I see my grandpa, and then he's just like, "Hey," and then he pulls a pack of Smarties out of his pocket and he gives it to me. And
just for reference, these are not the Smarties that you have in the States for some reason.
No.
When you say Smarties, you mean Rockets.
No.
These Smarties are not available in the States.
No, they're like candy coated and they have chocolate inside, and
they're like M&Ms but bigger.
Yeah.
Apparently they're illegal in the States.
They're
like
about
Kinder Surprises
the same
or something
size
like
as
that.
Skittles. So he gives me like a little pack of these chocolatey candies, and I'm trying not to burst out laughing because I'm just instantly thinking about the episode. And
there's a whole lot of Canadian-American discretions in this episode so far.
like what?
Well, Smarties versus Rockets, and Obamacare, and chocolate bars versus candy bars.
That's from all you're saying all those things.
Yeah,
so you know.
I'm just saying, it's only been a couple minutes.
Anyway, so where are you? Next thing on my list has to do with them going into the
Okay, I'll catch up then.
So.
When Camilla said this month has 5 Wednesdays, I've already met my quota, I thought that was kind of funny. Like, it shows that she'd already thought this out well in advance and probably looked at her calendar in search of finding an excuse for this. She tried to make it seem like it was a spur-of-the-moment thing when she'd obviously had it well planned out. I like the way Ava said she didn't want Camilla to think of church and devotions as a chore. As much as I dislike Danny Schmidt as a character, it's something that was also brought up by his parents in All the Difference in the World, where they didn't want to make him pray for the food forcefully because they don't want it to be a chore. It's supposed to be a privilege going to church and praying and stuff, and we want to treat it as such, not force it upon it and attach all those negative things to spending time with God. Next thing, I have to catch up with you. Making the distinction between calling oneself a Christian, going through the motions, and actually having a relationship with Jesus. This is a very important subject, and I don't want to go off on more rants like the last episode about problems in the church today, but, you know, that's one of those things. People grow up, and it's the biggest by far, with people who grow up in church, that, you know, you just learn to go through the motions and you become totally numb to everything that you hear around you, and so when it's old enough that you can actually appreciate what it means, it just doesn't have any resonance for you anymore that Jesus died for your sins, and it's really hard to step outside of yourself in that so that you can step back into it with an appreciation for that, what that means. And so as a program, it's something that Odyssey has addressed a little in the past, but it's something that can never be addressed enough. And Chris also brings it up at the very end of part 2, that, you know, all of the knowledge of God in the world is just clanging cymbals unless you actually have that relationship with him. Head knowledge is going to do nothing for you if you don't have that heart knowledge, just like Due for a Change with Eugene. Similar to that. So I was very glad that they brought that.
Can I just throw something in here? When me and Devin were first looking at the episode descriptions and quickly trying to forget them so we could go all ad-lib on cold. The 3rd episode, we were surprised when we found out that Camilla wasn't a
It was like the 6th episode, though. Christian? More Than a Feeling is the episode.
Yeah, because it said that she, like, with her newfound faith, so then we're like, what? Because, I don't know, it really surprised me because she, well, I don't know why, but this part in my brain, even though it really shouldn't, assumes that everyone that lives in Odyssey is a Christian.
Well, I mean, it's not just that. I mean, Camilla in,
Yeah, and then, like, in the Bird for a Feather, that's what, no, that's not what it's called.
In
you know what I mean?
The Holy Hoopster, she was talking all about the power of prayer and stuff like that.
Yeah, and in the episode where she gets her bird, she's, like, praying all night. She stays up all night and, like, all day just praying, so...
Although that was... I mean, it's like she was praying, but not really, you know...
Yeah, good point.
You can fill in the blanks of what we're saying.
Because we sure as heck
for
can't.
The birds. That's
yeah,
what
for
it's
the
called.
birds.
Once again, Ava seems to be the complete opposite and better opposite of Rosalita, which I found interesting. It seems like they're forming this... You know, it's the 2nd time she's been brought up now, and forming even more of a dichotomy between her sister.
Like the differences have been brought up? Oh, they're going to say the 2nd time Rosalita's been brought up. I was going to say no, more than that.
I was saying that the 2nd time Rosalita's been brought up.
No, they, in Never for Nothing, when they're looking at the teeth, and she says, tell me if you find your Aunt Rosalita's.
Okay, it's the 3rd time, but it's the 2nd time that they've emphasized the sharp dichotomy between Ava and Rosalita, how Rosalita is like the black sheep child compared to Ava, which I found interesting. It makes me wonder how long it's going to be before Rosalita makes an appearance on the show.
I doubt she would, but I guess they have lots of family episodes, because they're like the 3rd main family of Odyssey, or at least they're becoming, like the Washingtons and the Barclays. So I guess they do have a lot of family episodes, so I guess it kind of would make sense.
Well, I'm sure she won't become a main character, but she'll probably make at least one appearance somewhere.
I don't think she'd become a main character.
No.
I haven't met her, but I already dislike her, so...
Yeah.
You can't say you like her. I doubt you like Rosalita. Do you?
No.
Exactly.
Okay. This is the first time that a specific adventure has been had as a result of a parent's prompting. Like, the parent wants a kid to go be in a certain adventure, or a certain adventure, and so they went into it.
At least.
Well, yeah.
That we've heard.
Rather than, you know, someone at Wit's End or Wit sets it up for them, or the Imagination Station choose something, or they go in and it glitches out and things go crazy.
Yeah.
It's the first time that the parents been like, we should go on this adventure and stuff, and they go into it. I mean, with Moses the Passover, even George got forced into it, strong-armed by Wit.
And there aren't really... Is Moses the Passover, like, the only episode where they actually have, like, parents and kids going in at the same time? So, yeah, there's pretty much none of that. So that's why it was kind of interesting for them to all be in there.
Mm-hmm. First time we've seen parents willingly go into the Imagination Station.
Yeah, I'm guessing that one of the big things they don't like about it is the whole ride. I've always wanted to go into the Imagination Station to see why everyone's screaming. I always imagine like a roller coaster or something. Like it feels like a roller coaster, like going down and up or something, and that's why They
Imagine it's more like
scream.
warp speed on the Enterprise, and you're like, thrown back in the seat.
Yeah,
but there's no seat now.
I noticed how Ava and I noticed how Lucia was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I was just thinking like, you should have seen what it was like before.
Yeah, on the topic of no seats and what it was like before, it seems people complain a lot about the way the Imagination Station is now ever since it got changed with the doors and the sound effects. I personally kind of like the new Imagination Station, which isn't to say that I didn't like the old one. I really did love the old one, and the sound of it, of course, is a classic staple of Odyssey, with like the shaky typewriter table and everything
screaming
that we love about it. But I really do love the sound design for the new one, like the kind of
like
the tearing of space-time as someone goes through a door and ends up somewhere else. It's a very well done sound effect, and it varies all the time every time someone goes through. So
it does?
Yeah, it changes all the time. It's not the same tearing sound.
I guess it's because of other sound effects going at the same time.
Well, no. I mean, it's different. The tearing bit, it changes like every time a little bit.
Personally,
I like it.
I kind of like the old Imagination Station more. Don't get me wrong, I like the door thing. It's a clever idea, but I just miss it.
I would like to know how big the Imagination Station is now in physical reality.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the old one...
It sounds like they have like a whole room dedicated to it now, kind of.
Well, it's more than that.
It's
more than that. I mean, it was practically that big just before that. It started out as a phone booth. ... More on that in the headcanon Wit is a Time Lord video. It started out as a phone booth and worked its way to a water heater on its side, and then it looked like a front part of a helicopter, and then it got so big that you could fit 20 people inside by the end of album 50.
Yeah, but that was lots of those people were coming through the control panel, I think.
Oh, that's true, they were in the control room too, but Wit did say it was big enough to fit 20 people in.
I always imagined that it was like the control panel wasn't actually like a room, but kind of looks like where they called it pastor stands at.
Pulpit?
Yeah, pulpit, something like that.
Except
or
it's
like
the
a little
control
thing
room.
in front of you. Yeah, but I don't know why, but yeah, that's what I always imagined.
Yeah.
It's the Imagination Station. It's my imagination.
But what we heard from Connie in album 50 is that the new Imagination Station is literally comprised of multiple rooms and hallways.
Yeah,
now.
So it's like
it's big.
huge.
But granted, Wit's End is basically a giant TARDIS in and of itself, apart from the Imagination Station, so it's not like Wit's running short on rooms to burn.
Ever.
To jettison, to get him through a rift in the universe.
So are you caught up to the part where they're in the Imagination
almost.
Station?
I found it really odd, well, fairly odd, that Eva was letting Camilla skip church for the Imagination Station, considering the fact that they just went through this big hullabaloo about how she wasn't allowed, and now she's like, we're going to Wit's End instead.
Well,
I mean, I understand the point that she was trying to make. I do acknowledge that. It just, I don't know, it kind of struck me as odd.
Well, it did to me too for like a second, but I thought, well, she's going to be learning a lesson anyway.
I know.
And she wasn't planning on going to church in the first place, so that was pretty much the only way to get her attention.
I do realize that. It just seemed kind of funny, niggly in my mind.
Yeah, me too, but I guess that was the best way to approach it or something. It was one way to definitely get her attention. She probably wouldn't have gone to church anyway. She would have come up with like the 4th Tuesday of the month falls on the 15th or something.
Second Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the Imagination Station's close integration. I can't remember the last time where we had something like that. I love it when we are able to bring online like character assimilation and stuff like that. It's something, obviously, Jason first introduced that in the Apostle Paul Imagination Station Adventures with Rodney and Sam, and that was actually brought back for The Perfect Church, which I don't know if everyone noticed it.
Kelly, when she went into the new Imagination Station, she went in, she's like, whoa, my clothes have changed.
No, I'm talking about the character assimilation.
Oh, but they weren't assimilated, were they?
Not in this episode, but in The Perfect Church. In The Perfect Church, Matthew was assimilated in. As a matter of fact, as a person that they knew in the story. Like, they already knew who he was, just like in the St. Paul episodes. That's what I was saying.
What?
Remember?
I don't
Jason
remember
invented the
that.
feature.
Well, I remember the feature, but I don't remember Matthew being assimilated.
Yeah, and you actually hear, when the program begins running, you can hear the voice saying, like, character assimilation running 100% complete.
Huh.
Yeah. True story.
I don't remember that, but okay. I haven't listened.
Unless I'm totally wrong.
I've only listened to the first part once and the second part once.
In which case you can berate me in the comments. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but I'm pretty sure that's when it was. So, what did you want to say? Thanks for getting in.
Okay, I was already a little contrary to the idea of Lucia going into the imagination station. And in the second episode, she didn't really bother me that much because she was only in it for like 3 minutes. Like the second episode, her and Ava were barely in it, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah, so Lucia didn't bother me as a character. I didn't really like her, but I didn't find her annoying like Devin did.
I really disliked her character until this episode.
Episode made me dislike her, so we pretty much completely
And the opposite.
switched.
I really disliked her before, but this episode I think made me like her a good amount more. Granted, I'm not saying that I love her as a character now. I think possibly Victoria and I are currently now on the same level of feeling for her.
Yeah.
It's just that she started out higher and I started out lower. So
Now
I
we're
like her
kind of
more.
in the
Victoria likes her
middle.
less. But now we're about on equal footing because I really disliked her character before.
Every single time she annoyed me in this episode, I like made a little mark on my paper. I ended up with like 17 or something like that. So first thing that alerted me that, oh boy, maybe I should reconsider liking her was when she was like, no, I don't want to go into the imagination station. I could get a computer virus. And then I'm like, really? Like, are you serious? What does that
like
even
her line
mean?
about the interwebs later.
I don't remember that.
She was talking about when they're asked if they had news from the battle yet, and she's like, back in my day we didn't have all your something or your interwebs. It was a bit of a quiet line.
And then she's like, oh, I need my purse, and then I'm like, no, you really don't.
That brings up,
Just
that's
go
what
in. You're only going to be in there for like 30 seconds anyway, even if it feels like a month or a year or something.
Yeah, we will talk about on another episode about our theories, which are probably just my theories, on how the imagination station works exactly.
Well, it's in your mind. Everything goes really fast in your mind.
Well,
you can have like 1,000 thoughts a
know.
second.
But along the lines of how it works in terms of personal psychological perception, and along the line of Ava's purse, I found it interesting that not only did the clothes change, but there was also...
You mean Lucia's purse.
What did I say?
Ava's.
Yeah, Lucia's purse. That there was also accessory integration, that her purse changed to look like a potato sack, which is interesting. I mean, I guess it's not all that much different.
It makes sense because purse is kind of like part of clothing, kind of.
Yeah, but I mean,
clothing.
The clothing looks different, and that's not that hard to do in the programming. But if you're holding your purse, a potato sack is made out of burlap, so it will feel different. And I mean, obviously, when you're in the imagination station, there's a lot of tactile stimulation. You're feeling the things that are happening to you in the imagination station. But it's interesting that a real-world object was manipulated tacticially, which I just made that word up, in the imagination station. I found that interesting. I'm not sure exactly what level of a psychological filter is being used there.
The kind of purpose, I think, of their whole outfit changing is to make it look like you're not modern.
Well, obviously, and it is kind of nice.
Of course, they'd eliminate all modern-looking things.
Yeah,
change it.
I understand that. I just find it interesting, and also it is nice, to every once in a while at least have one episode where we don't have to go through the whole shenanigan shtick of people asking them about their weird modern clothing and stuff, because we get that in almost every single imagination station episode.
Yeah, like Levi's. Oh,
Levi Strauss. Oh,
yeah.
Jewish tailor. Fine workmanship.
Anyway, we should move on.
Yeah.
Hurry this up.
Okay. Penina is a jerk.
I didn't like her.
When she's like, just because you don't have kids doesn't give you an excuse to starve mine. And I paused it and I typed that out. I was like, ouch, why was she invited? And then I hit play and she's like, I'm Elkanah's first wife. And I was like, oh.
You should divorce her even though they didn't do that back then.
Yeah, I was going to read through 1 Samuel 1 and following. And then I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do that before I listen to everything because I want to not remember everything and be surprised as we go through.
Well, I was definitely surprised.
And in retrospect, going through reading what people said about the episode, I was very impressed. Just like The Perfect Church, the same thing, people being very impressed with the very high level of attention to biblical detail in things. Not just covering over the main idea of the story, but little things like Hannah's sadness and her emotions, Peninnah's like arrogance about her kids, Eli's weight, and
they even asked Hannah if she was drunk, and that was like the biggest thing I remembered from the story when I was little.
Yeah, that was really funny because he said that line. I was like, hold on, I have to check and see if this is actually in the Bible, and it was. And I was
that's how he went through it, but when I was going through the episode by myself, and they're like, oh, Hannah's in the tabernacle, and so then like, I was thinking like, okay, are they gonna do the alcohol line? And then they did, and I was just like, oh yeah. And I'm like, biblical detail, 2 + 2 to this episode.
Yeah, I found it funny how it seems like everyone in the Bible, when something weird's going on, they just assume everyone is drunk. Like, because as soon as Eli said that line, I thought of Pentecost, which interestingly has to do with the last episode. Once again, we come back to the Perfect Church, where, you know, everyone is being slain in the spirit and stuff, and people come up and they're like, why are you drunk? It's only 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
One thing we should really mention, and I don't know why we haven't yet, I thought you have at least remembered, this was a episode with a new voice actress.
That's true.
And Camilla is now being played by someone else.
Yes, her name starts with an M, I think. I'm not going to look it up because I don't want to have an awkward pause while I type on my computer. But yes, it seems that Sydney Shiatani is out. There was an episode on the official podcast talking about it, so I'm sure they probably explained the reason. Actually, maybe not on there, but I don't know why. So sorry for my current ignorance.
I don't know either. I was listening, and then about near the end of the episode, I suddenly sat up in my seat, and I'm like, wait a second, something sounds wrong. So then I wrote, her voice sounds different. I told that to Devin later. I found out I was right. It was a new voice actress.
To rewind a bit.
And she did a good job.
Before the tabernacle, when Hannah said, if I done something to displease the Lord, that I can't bear children. And that just got me here, because that is another thing that's big today, like the name it and claim it, blab it and grab it ministries, things which really gets under my skin. I won't name names, but I think anyone who intakes a lot of Christian media knows which celebrities I'm pointing my fingers at figuratively, because when you put out that kind of gospel message, what it communicates is that if someone takes it to heart and prays for something they don't get it, then that means the problem is with them. It's the same thing that happened in Shining Armor in album 37, when Maria, her house is destroyed, and she asks, what's his face, what happened? He said, because you didn't believe enough. When you base someone's faith on the idea that if they believe enough, and if God loves them, he'll give them whatever they want, when that doesn't come true, because that isn't biblical, when it doesn't come true, then you're going to shatter their faith. It's building people's faith on a very bad, unsolid, crumbly foundation. And so it was like, oh, and she said that, what have I done to displease God? And they did, move on from that. It's not like they just left it in that slump. Elkanah talked to her and stuff, and that was resolved, that idea.
That
and I was glad.
With Odyssey characters saying things like that, it reminds me of Courtney in her first appearance. I think it was one of her first appearances in Thy Kingdom Come, when she's like, and it was like, God can't heal you just like that and stuff. If you've been in such a horrible accident, you can't just go around acting like it never happened and just be as good as new. And she's like, he'll heal me if he loves me. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah, just like Jimmy and his bike in
Except for
When You Pray.
It actually works out for him.
Well, yeah, but that I mean, that's not the whole that's not the end of the episode
that's
there.
not the point,
It
though.
goes on from there.
They explain it. We talked about that episode in our last episode, so yeah.
Yeah.
Just reference that. Anyway.
Even though that's not what we talked about in
Elkanah.
When Camilla said that was violent but interesting, I was like, I like this kid. I thought that was funny.
that made me laugh.
Violent but interesting. I was like, good
that
kid.
made me laugh, but it probably shouldn't have. I laughed, but I kind of felt bad after I did. Elkanah. I like that name. I like it so much. I wrote down Elkanah is such a sweet name on my thing. And I don't mean sweet as in cute. I mean sweet as in awesome.
Not sweet like an entire chocolate bar from your grandmother.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on...
Or
I could go either way.
Willy Wonka's chocolate river.
Yeah. He's gonna drown.
Complete with a kid stuck in the tube and all.
Yeah. Another line, when she does it, dedicate Samuel as a Nazarite, and she's like, his hair will never be cut, and Lucia's like, sounds like Matthew. I was like, ah.
That made me
That
laugh
was
too.
funny, because I didn't see that.
That was
line
my
coming.
favorite part with her in the episode.
That was funny.
Which wasn't hard, because I didn't really like her in this episode.
When... When Hannah's giving birth, and Lucia's like, I'll have to talk to Whit about what he's putting in these programs, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Exactly.
I'm actually really surprised that Whit put live childbirth in a program like that, and I was like, well...
The same thing happened with Mary, if you think about it.
Yeah, I know, but that was for Connie and Eugene.
Yeah.
He did specifically program this adventure for Camilla and Ava and Lucia, so he knew that, one, it was going to be all women there, and two, that Ava is a nurse, so not only could she help with it, but she could explain anything to Camilla that might be questions.
I was kind of surprised that no one said anything about, like, nurses, like the word nurse, because did they even have the word nurse back then? They
No,
had,
but
like...
we're asking for midwives, basically
Yeah,
the
they
same
had
thing back
midwives,
then.
but they probably didn't know what a nurse was. They were probably just like, okay, she says she can help, I don't know what a nurse is, but...
Yeah,
she can help.
She kind of takes charge and everyone just listens to her, which is funny.
One thing that kind of confused me a bit actually was Camilla and Lucia were like, maybe we should just leave the room, but they stayed in the room. Because...
Well, they said maybe.
Yeah, but they're like, or maybe we should cover our eyes or something, but then, like, someone comes over and, like, talks to them for 5 minutes, and I'm just like, you guys could at least leave the room while talking. Someone's giving birth in here.
Yeah, over the screaming, and the baby's coming out, and Camilla's like, wow, and I was like, Camilla is scarred for life.
Yeah, I'm still scarred from life from health videos.
Yeah, I've never had to watch a video of
Be glad.
live childbirth.
Anyway, let's get off that subject before I have scarring flashbacks.
After the baby's born, and Camilla says that he's cute. Eli's like, or not Eli, Elkanah's like, I think he has my nose. And Camilla's like, I still think he's cute. And,
I don't remember.
yeah, she's like, I still think he's cute. And that really made me laugh. What it made me think of was those old under-the-breath Jimmy Barkley lines, like in Our Best Vacation Ever, where he's like, I think Mr. Whitaker's been spending too much time in the imagination station.
Jimmy!
Jimmy! Things like that, the little sarcastic under-the-breath lines. When she said that, it made me think back to those lines from Jimmy.
Camilla is definitely no Jimmy.
No.
I like Jimmy more.
We love you, Dave.
Yes, we do. Jimmy's in
Even though
my
apparently
top 5.
life being a musical is your worst fear, I found out on Facebook. Which,
what does that have to do with
shame
this?
on you. I love him anyways, even despite that. And despite that
thing.
the fact that he met his wife while she was working for Disneyland parades, where life literally is a musical, as she put it earlier on Facebook.
Anyway,
Hannah's explanation of prayer. I really like this. Like I said, it's something that has been touched on Odyssey before. You talked about it a bit in And When You Pray. The thing where it was explained the most was in A Touch of Healing, where Mildred is explaining it to Connie, and it's actually the exact same thing which we were talking about in our last episode concerning tithing, which is that prayer is not so much for God's sake as it is for our sake. God will do what He will, when He will. But the point of prayer, I mean, it does have a hand in things, but the real point of prayer is not so much for trying to change what God is doing as it is for building our relationship with God. It's the same thing with tithing, and that's something that Hannah explains to Camilla, and I really love it when that subject is broached.
So...
Did you have anything else, or am I just finishing?
I didn't take very many notes. Devin took notes for everything.
Everything, yeah. I wanted to write down as much as I could.
I mostly talk about things as they're happening. Lots of the things I've talked about so far, lots of the points I brought up aren't actually on my piece of paper. I'm all caught up to the end. My next point is about the last thing.
Hannah said, "I'm not giving him away, Camilla. I'm giving him back." I was like, ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I like that line. I'm like, aww.
Yes.
Aww.
That was a good line.
It's like tithe, how you're like, it's not actually ours in the first place.
That's why I was about to say something, but I thought you were going to hit me for comparing baby Samuel to money. No. I thought it was interesting.
You're not going to hit me for doing that, are you?
No. The party split apart. Camilla stays there, and Lucia and Ava go off. And I thought it was really interesting that there was like this temporal displacement between two parties simultaneously in the imagination station.
Yeah.
I found that really interesting. I didn't know that you could do that, especially since there's no partition to separate people anymore. They are all together inside the same imagination station, although I guess they went into a different room. They went through a door, so they went into a different room, but still, it is interesting, like I said.
I was kind of confused
that there's this temporal discretion.
Because I thought they were, like, still in the same time, but Camilla was, like, 8 or 10 years in the future. So then once they met up together, I'm just like, wait, so they're caught up too? And I don't really remember, like, the part where Ava and Lucia would have caught up, like, around 10 years in the future.
Well, obviously it was off mic.
Yeah, so I was really confused by that and, like, what's going on.
Yeah, but like I said, I did find that interesting. Something new that we've never heard from the imagination station before, and goes to show we're still learning stuff.
We really haven't had this one for too long, so there's still lots of stuff that can be taken from it.
Well, I mean, the imagination station in general, we're still getting new things out of it. Like I said, Lucy is actually starting to grow on me as a character.
Oh my gosh, I just realized something. What if all of Odyssey actually happens...
Don't say it.
Like, in the future, and then they take Imagination Station adventures. Like, what takes Imagination Station adventures to the past? Or to, like, a world he created named Odyssey. Yeah, I just blew your mind, didn't I?
What?
You're like, Odyssey doesn't actually exist, but Whit created a machine.
Is the Imagination Station in Whit's End the one that he used to get back?
No, it's like...
Or is it a separate one he's hiding in the basement?
It's like an imagination station in an imagination station.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just blew your mind.
No.
Okay.
I found it really surprising that Lucia was so excited to be sacrificing an animal. On that note, I thought it was really cool, and people were talking about this on the forums too, that they brought up the tabernacle and the sacrificing and used it as a moment to talk about Jesus being the sacrifice and stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah, they haven't mentioned that since Moses the Passover.
There were a lot of themes in this episode, a lot of different themes that were all tied together around a central thing, but they all came from different directions and different stories, which, I mean, are all in the same part of the Bible, but they're seemingly unrelated, and everything tied together really well in this episode, and I was very impressed with it. And that was one of the things that was tied in there, was Jesus' death being the perfect atonement for sin and no longer having the need to sacrifice animals. But like I said, I was kind of surprised that Lucia was like, ooh, we get to sacrifice animals. I was like, I thought she'd be like, I'll get blood on my, like, painted manicured nails or what have you.
Yeah, because she came in, she was like, I need Kleenexes and
my
stuff.
orthopedic
And then she's
shoes,
just like,
let's kill the lamb.
Yeah, and then she's like, ooh, there's an animal, let's sacrifice it. And I'm like,
Okay.
I already have my hairdressing scissors. We're all ready to go.
I'm at the end of part 1, so
okay.
Finish off your last things here.
Phineas. I've only heard of, like, this whole story growing up. I only heard the part with Sarah and Samuel being born.
Hannah.
I keep wanting to say Sarah for some reason. Like Hannah and Samuel being born. I've heard that little section. And by that I mean the fact that she wasn't able to have a kid and the whole tabernacle thing and...
drunkenness.
Yeah, and the drunkenness. I've heard that story. And the one I've heard that one like twice. And the one I've heard many, many times is the Samuel part.
That's
and then
not what God
God
sounds like.
I've never even heard what God actually said to him.
Yeah, that's actually true.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously I've read it in my Bible before, but it's one of those things which obviously is not in the story enough.
Whenever I hear the story with Samuel, it always stops at when he says, like, "Speak, Lord, your servant is listening." Then I always hear, like, and then God talked to him, the end.
Yeah, and I guess...
I've never actually heard
I guess now,
said.
thinking about it, now we know why they usually leave that part out of the story, because it is kind of harsh.
Yeah, kind of. Especially since that's one of the stories that you generally hear a lot growing up.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean... I've read the story in my Bible at least twice before, but obviously it's something which isn't normally included in the story enough such that it's stuck in my head, because I was like, wow,
now you'll remember it.
That was harsh.
Anyway, Phineas, I heard that name and I just like, this thing just like happened in my head. I don't even know what to say. And I'm just like, Phineas. That doesn't even sound like a biblical name. I'm like, it has like a kind of biblical quality, like Telemachus or something. Like
even though Telemachus isn't in the Bible.
Yeah, I know, but
and it's spelled differently,
it kind of
and
sounds
Telemachus
like
was
a kind of Romanish name. Know what I mean? Like the little us at the end.
Except it's
and I'm like, Phineas, and I'm like, has that little thing. I'm like, but it doesn't sound like a biblical name. I asked Devin right after if Phineas was actually in the Bible, and he's like, yes, and I'm like, okay. But
apparently Phineas was a popular name, I guess, for Levitical priests to name their sons, since Phineas was also the son of Aaron.
I did not know this till yesterday. So
and also the son of Eli, so there we go.
And I asked Devin this, and I didn't actually think that Phineas would have any big role in the episode, like either parts whatsoever. I thought he'd just appear, take the lamb, and then leave. So, I have like this thing when I say what, very surprised, I like kind of yell it, and then my voice goes really high. You know what I'm talking about?
Don't you normally just go, what?
I go like,
what?
Yeah, when I'm not doing that, like sometimes
what?
I go like, what? And then like, I'm not going to do it here, because, yeah.
You don't want to pop the mic.
Yeah, I don't want to do anything bad, but I yell like, what? And I yell it like kind of quietly, and then it like screeches at the end and like this little scream thing.
I can picture it.
But you've heard it a bunch of times. You usually
go
cover
on,
your
go
ears.
on.
But anyway, yeah, it was like Phineas is his son, like the priest's son, and I was like, what? And I had one of those moments, and I totally did not expect that. It really surprised me a lot.
Moving on to part 2, which we have considerably less to say about. First off, like I said, with all the themes and all the different stories, I thought that this episode was just going to be about Samuel as the young boy and the Speak Lord for your servant is listening story. So I was really glad that we got this broader range of things and how it was all tied together. It was very well done, as I said. Kudos to Nathan and Kathy. When Camilla's in the tabernacle and Samuel comes up, because, we hear, Eli is a very large man, and we know that from the Bible, and it's certainly mentioned multiple times in this episode. And when Camilla looks in on his bedroom, and he mumbles something about wanting hummus, and so then Samuel runs up, and he's like, what do you say? I have to go to Eli, he called for me. And I was like, no, he called for hummus. That's what I said.
Okay.
Vest and a toothbrush, clean out your ears. I said I have an itch in my left eye.
I thought it was kind of interesting how Camilla was in there. I was glad that they actually pointed out that girls weren't allowed in there.
And they
I thought they
explained...
kind of just like ignore that.
I'm glad she didn't go into the Holy of Holies. That would have been made for a very messy episode, and that they actually explained that and stuff. I liked Samuel's kind of nonchalant way of saying that if you go in, God will strike you dead.
Yeah, she's like, what will happen? Oh, you'll just die. Like,
yeah.
Oh.
He'll strike you down. Yeah, when people went into the Holies of Holy, the Holy of Holies in the Old Testament, they'd have to tie a rope around your leg when you go in so that if you are struck dead, then they can pull your corpse out.
Yeah, that's kind of morbid. Anyway.
I said, at least I feel better now, or at least Lucia can feel better now about Ava's relative leniency with her kids, because compared to Eli, Ava is like the Gestapo. Is Eli's like having his sons go and be all sacrilegious about the sacrifices, being priests in the tabernacle of the Lord. And he's like, don't do it. And they're like, we're going to do it. And he's like, okay. I didn't expect him to be such a pushover. I was quite surprised.
Lenient?
Yeah. He was a real pushover with the kids, especially with the Ark of the Covenant. Come on, man. Like, he's like,
It's
no,
the Ark.
don't do it. And they just take it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I understand with your kids, you know, God can strike your kids dead. In the history of Israel, it's probably not going to make that big of a difference. But this is the Ark of the Covenant. You can't let them go and take it into battle without God's permission. I'm surprised God didn't.
Why would they even take it into battle anyway?
Because they wanted to bring down God's power on the Philistines. But I'm surprised that God didn't strike them dead for picking up the Ark without his permission. I mean, whether they're using the poles, I was going to say Asherah poles. I was trying to think of what type of wood it is that makes the poles. I think it's Lebanese cedars. That's what they usually made wooden stuff out of in the Bible, but I always said Asherah poles. Oh boy, that would be sacrilegious.
I don't know what those are. You can explain
Poles
to me
for
later.
worshipping Asherah? Like Asherah and Baal?
Wow.
Yeah.
You're a horrible person.
Yeah.
We're totally Christians.
Yes.
I was going to say we swear, but...
Good job.
Anyway.
So overall, I think this lesson was amazing for this episode. They tied all these things together.
Well, that's it.
Brought it, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the second part more, but...
No, I said I don't have a lot of stuff. I already mentioned some of the other stuff when we were talking about the first part.
I was kind of surprised by God's message, because, yeah, like I said, I'd never actually heard the part of what he says to Samuel, so when I heard it, I was like, wow.
Oh.
I didn't expect that.
Here's something for you to think about. Both the sons got struck down in battle, but Eli is like standing there and he collapses, and Eva checks him, and his neck has been snapped. So God struck him down by snapping his neck. So when God sent the angel of death for him, he was in essence sending a weeping angel of death.
Wow. You are a horrible person.
Because he said, like, the angel to strike him down, and the angel snapped his neck, so it's a weeping angel.
Yeah, when he fell down and he died, I thought it was going to be like one of those things like, oh, it's so horrible, I can't take it, like sadness.
Had a heart attack, yeah, he died from sadness. Nope.
Well, I thought it would be like...
God snipped his spinal cord.
Okay, I know pretty much nothing about sci-fi, but I thought it'd be like Padme, for those of you that actually tolerate the early Star Wars enough. Not by early, I don't mean like 4, 5, and 6, the good ones. I mean the bad ones, like the third one with Padme when she dies of sadness because Anakin goes all Darth Vader.
Anakin.
Yeah. Anakin. Like I said, I don't really know that much about Star Wars. Anyway.
You know that. You were the one who was just talking to me about how much Tara was like Anakin.
Whatever. Anyway, so I thought it'd be something like that. This is like, oh, his nap snacked.
His nap snacked?
I told you I was tired.
He got snicker snacked.
His...
Slain by the Vorpal sword.
Ever since the last episode, I haven't been able to talk properly. Ever since the end of the
Go
last
back to
episode.
nostilism.
Anyway,
Blah, blah, blah.
when his neck snapped, I was going to say it again. Yeah, I thought it was going to be he randomly fell, and that's what snapped his neck.
Well, maybe, but probably not. I don't care how old you are, how weak your bones are.
know.
Falling forward is not going to snap your neck.
I hope not.
Hopefully.
Or else
I suppose theoretically it probably could at that age, but I don't think that's what it was.
it's gonna hurt a lot of people.
Or
if they fall forward.
It won't hurt them because they'll be paralyzed and they won't feel it.
Anyway.
So,
I liked this
did you have
episode.
any other things before a little conclusion?
I was kind of tired when I listened to the second episode, honestly, so I don't remember a whole bunch about it in detail. I'm gonna have to listen to it again. I couldn't really blame Samuel for not really wanting to say right away to Eli what God told him.
Mm-hmm.
But after, like, Eli asked for, like, the 10th time and Samuel's still like, no, I'm like, geez, kid, you know you're gonna tell him anyway, just tell him.
Well, he was like, may God deal with you be it ever so severely if you don't tell me everything that he said. And I found it was funny because when he said it, I was thinking of Jezebel, because those are the same words that she used when she's like, may the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow Elijah isn't like one of those priests
Imagine
to bring
if
things back
Samuel
to Asherah
said,
poles
like,
again.
if I tell you what God said, you will be dealt with ever so severely. That'd be kind of horrible. Anyway,
so
I liked this episode.
yeah, like I said, the lesson was fantastic. We don't get that enough today, that, you know, Christianity is not about going to church or even believe. It's not just about, you know, believing as in the head knowledge that Jesus died for your sins, but about asking him into your heart, asking forgiveness for sins, and having an actual relationship with him, knowing him. That is something that we don't get barely ever. And so I really liked it, and then Chris had a fantastic wrap-up to tie all those things together. So overall, I think the lesson on this episode and the biblical accurateness was fantastically executed, so I was very impressed with that. And there were some good moments of humor. What's your kind of overall thoughts?
I don't know. Moments when I'm thinking about things, like, really deeply are never when I'm actually talking about them. It's when I'm talking to myself, because I'm strange like that. So I thought the voice acting was great, as always. I really like Camilla's new voice actor. Probably, I'd go as far to say I like her more than Camilla's original voice actor, because that voice actor kind of, I don't know, something in her voice. Anyway.
It's kind of nasally a bit.
Yeah. But
not really nasally, it's more close to the back of the throat as opposed to the nose, but go on.
Yeah. Anyway, so, I really liked it. I liked the biblical accurateness, like you already said.
Even though you hadn't read the story.
Even though I haven't read the story, but everything I did know about the story really matched up quite well. I liked how they did the whole story, like, before, after, and then put the Samuel part, like, at the very beginning of part 2-ish, beginning-ish. And then they even went as far to say at the end, when Camilla asked what happened to Samuel, like, they explained his whole life pretty much. I liked that.
Or just tying things together.
Yeah, they, like, tie everything to Saul and then David.
Eventually, you're just going to be able to, like, go through the entire Bible just with an Odyssey playlist.
That would actually be kind of fun, but I advise reading.
Yeah, I'd advise reading the Bible. I always find it funny when you get to biblical two-parters where Chris is like, well, if you want to find out what happens, you can wait till next week. Or you could read it in your Bible. And I'm like, yeah.
I read the book of Ruth, and I was very surprised by how short it was.
Yeah, it's only 4 chapters.
And I really liked how much Odyssey went off on it. And I was actually using their voices while I read for somehow, even though there's barely any like, actual dialogue in it.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, when you think about how long ago the Book of Ruth happened, not a lot of dialogue would have been preserved.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's not like they're going to be like, this is something like what they said. I mean, the Bible is the true word of God. If you don't have the literal dialogue, you're not going to put the literal dialogue in. Otherwise, the Bible won't be accurate.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. But,
so, anyway.
Which actually makes it kind of amazing when you think about how much dialogue is in the book of Genesis, like actual in quotations dialogue.
Anyway, back to talking about the episode.
What would you give it out of 5?
I'm bad at rating things. I'm
Pick a
not
number.
very critical.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
I'll give it a... I'll feel bad if I give it a low rating.
Well, if you don't like it, then give it a low rating. If you do like it, give it a high one.
I'm for both parts, I'm going to give it a 4.5 because Lucia kind of ticked me off a little bit.
And I'm going to give it a 4.5 also, actually, because I really liked the episode, and there wasn't really anything wrong with it that I found. So 4.5 because it was very good. It wasn't my favorite episode ever. That would be a 5,
No.
but it was.
Can I change mine to a 4?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
4 because after I listened to it, it wasn't really one that like struck a note in my head. There's just like, oh my gosh, this. Kind of like with my other favorite episodes, which like Groundhog Day is the one I've gotten the most fangirly over in the past while album. Yeah, so yeah, 4.
So yeah, and 4.5. So that is the end of our discussion. Couple closing notes. Put your thoughts down in the comments. Let us know what you thought about the episode. If you haven't heard it, then go to AIOO Wiki, go to the audio player there, and click on the episodes and listen to them. They will be there till like for another 2 weeks-ish before they get pushed off of the roster.
So hurry if you want to listen to them.
So yeah, if you're watching this next year, then you're going to have to buy the album or what have you. But
sorry.
But yeah, do that. Go listen to it. Enjoy. Now that we've spoiled everything for you, go and do that. I don't know why you watched it if you haven't listened to the episodes yet. Shame on you.
Anyway.
So, Victoria, next episode, they already know about it,
Next
but just for the official announcement.
Next episode is going to be our interview with Austin and Tasha.
Wow!
Yay!
Finally, our first interview. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. They're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to it. Like I said, we're going to be recording on Saturday night, and so you have until then to send us your questions via YouTube, via Facebook, via Twitter, or email, or whatever you want to do. We're pretty flexible about these things.
Like, share, like.
Yeah. And also, next week, like I said, we're going to be getting the schedule back on track. Now, releasing this episode now catches up for the fact that our last episode was a little late, but the second episode was a week later than it should have been. So we're actually a week behind schedule from when we started. And so just after the interview is released next week, there will be a bonus video shortly after that, which will catch things up. It will be a surprise. It will be related to the interview in a way. And it's been something Austin was actually going to release, but I had been planning it for longer, and I asked him if I could do it instead. And he said yes. So
it's something that only a couple people have heard, and those who have heard it really enjoyed it.
And those who are fans of the blogcast will probably find it really funny, hopefully.
And those who like to see Devin do weird things, which is everyone, will also really enjoy it.
So tune in for that. So send us questions, please.
Mark them with trivia. Right in the comments.
That's not what I meant.
Oh. You meant Austin and Tasha questions.
Yes.
But that too.
I think that is everything that we have for today.
I have a question. What is their favorite color? Write it in the comments.
Hopefully this episode was a lot shorter than the last few ones. As we're covering the big topics that we had for initial episodes and working down to smaller ones, these episodes should be getting shorter and shorter.
Sorry that they're super long at the beginning, but that's because we're covering very broad scopes.
Like the last episode, which hopefully was really good. I hope you all enjoyed it, those of you who watched it, even though it was a whopping 58 minutes and 9 seconds.
We got pretty deep into that episode.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Devin's favorite part was the ending when I made my little goof up.
So I think that's all that we have for you this week. Thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. I'm Devin.
And I'm Victoria, and I still can't talk properly.
And you've been joining us for the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast.